Have you got attention from girls being a pilot?
I would like to. Hello everyone, welcome back to India's #1 pilot podcast, where pilots come and share their wonderful experiences with all of the aspiring pilots. Today we have Capt.Neha with us. We are going to discuss a few questions which are most frequently asked by all of you. So
Let's get started.
Yes, so let's get started. Let's start with question number 1, which is can any ordinary person land a plane?
No, it is because it requires a lot of techniques with respect to that aircraft type, as well as there are a lot of factors to be accounted for when you consider landing a plane. So, not a passenger could land a plane.
Which is the most expensive commercial aircraft in the world?
Oh, of course, the most gigantic aircraft that is there in the world, which is Airbus 380, which has the highest number of passenger seating capacity. That's the most expensive, which costs more than 2,000 crores.
More than 2000
Yes,
crores.
in Indian rupees, yeah.
Which is the most challenging airport you have flown to?
It is Silchar, which is in northeast India, and that has the runway is short. There are a lot of hills around. It has a slope as well, and yes, that was one of the challenging experience that I've had.
So how many times have you been to Silchar?
Only once.
Only once.
Yeah.
It was the most challenging.
Yes.
So do you need
yes.
any special type of training while you're flying to such airports?
There are certain airports which require special clearances, like for example, Jammu, Srinagar, then Leh, for that matter, Kathmandu. It requires a special clearance, and once that is granted to both the pilots, then only you can go and land as a line captain.
Moving on to the next question. Have you seen a UFO?
No, I have not seen a UFO, but I have seen the shooting stars, and I've seen that in the red eye night flights, which is pretty cool. Yes.
Moving on to the next question. How long does the passenger oxygen mask work?
It goes on for 15 minutes. If in case there are certain areas wherein it is mountainous area, and in case of decompression or in case of pressurization failure, if in case that route is going to take more than 15 minutes, in that case the additional oxygen is carried. But then with the routing, which is escape route we call it as, that takes us to the point where we descend to 10,000 feet within 15 minutes.
Okay, so it's just 15 minutes that we get oxygen. Otherwise, like for
So,
now.
If in 15 minutes you reach 10,000 feet,
Okay.
which is a lot of time. In fact, if you consider 320, then we can go on from 39,000 feet to 10,000 feet in just 4 minutes. So 15 minutes is more than enough. Okay.
Okay.
So 15 minutes time is what is required. And yes, there are passenger service unit which is above the passenger seats, and from there are chemical oxygen generators. Once you pull the mask, which you must have seen in the cabin
Movies,
crew,
or
and she does a demo, right, in the
Yes,
safety
yes.
briefing. So that time you need to pull a mask so that the oxygen generator will generate the oxygen chemical reaction which takes place, and thereafter the oxygen will be supplied. That is the way the passenger would be getting the oxygen.
Okay. Next question. Are pilots allowed to listen music while flying?
No, we are not allowed to listen to the music while
So
flying.
when you are when the aircraft is flying or the aircraft is cruising on an autopilot, so what work do you do actually?
So on autopilot, we are supposed to monitor. Of course, in cruise, the workload is much less compared to during climb and in descent. So if it is a long haul flight wherein the flight time is much more in the cruise, that time if it is more than 3 hours, then you can one of the pilot can even take a controlled rest. So it is not required that both the pilots are supposed to be vigilant at that time, because the workload is less in terms of monitoring the flight path, in terms of monitoring the fuel, whether the consumption is going as per planned, as well as you have to do the radio telephony with the air traffic controller. Radio telecommunication needs to be done. So these tasks are to be performed in cruise.
What I have experienced is whenever I speak to someone who is not in the field of aviation and I tell them like I am a pilot, so the first reaction is, oh, you don't have to work anything, you just like take off, you like engage the autopilot and then you relax in the cockpit.
No, it is not like that. It is during the climb descent, there are a lot of other things. So, even if the air traffic controller gives you instructions, you need to give commands to the autopilot in order to perform that particular function. Now,
Yes,
like
that's true.
if air traffic controller asks you to climb flight level 330, then you need to set it. At the same time, you need to comply it according to the speed restrictions as per the air traffic controller. So it is the command which needs to be given to the autopilot. Yeah.
Yes, so for the plane to fly, apart from the autopilot, we need to give instructions to the autopilot like how to fly the plane.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Moving on to next question. How much fuel does your plane consume per hour?
So I fly 320. So in Airbus 320, of course, there are various variants as well, like Neo. Thereafter, there are
CEO.
CFMs, and yeah, CEO is the current engine option. Neo is new engine option. So depending on the aircraft type, then 320, 321, it will vary. But on an average, it's about 40 kgs per minute. And if you consider per hour, it's about 2400 kgs per hour. Yep.
That's a lot of fuel.
Of course, it depends a lot on various factors. Like if the aircraft is heavy, then it will consume more fuel.
More fuel.
If aircraft is lighter, the fuel consumption will be less. So this is a rough estimate.
Moving on to the next question. Do you think Earth is flat?
No, it is not flat. It is a sphere. And yes, of course, it is not a perfect sphere though. But it is sphere. Yes, you can, when you are there flying at like 39,000 feet, you see up to a certain distance. Beyond that, you will not be able to see. If it was flat, you will be able to see from Mumbai all the way to New York, right?
Yes.
So, yes, Earth is not flat.
Moving on to the next question. Which is the best aviation book?
The one which I'm writing now. So, I'm working on one book right now. Very shortly, you will be able to see that book published.
That's wonderful. So, what all things do you do? You fly the plane, you are a mentor at CNTAA,
Yes.
you work on your YouTube video, you are working on this podcast, and you are writing a book. So, how do you get so much time to work on all of these things?
Yes, it is time management. Yes, I do work whenever I am not flying. I make sure that yes, I am rested well, and then in free meantime, I do these tasks, and I do enjoy doing it.
Yes, all the best for your upcoming book, which is
Thank
based
you.
upon aviation.
Thank you so
And
much.
moving on to the next question, do you ever feel guilty cutting a security line?
Okay. No, actually not, because we are pilots, so that is our workplace, and that's where we do get a priority for security, because if there are so many passengers and we have certain timeline up to at which we are supposed to be at the aircraft, as well as being that as a workplace, it is mentioned on the boards over there that pilots and crew will get priority over passengers. So that's perfectly okay.
Which is the most common mistake according to you a pilot makes?
Okay, so it is very easy to get distracted by so many things happening around you. Like, for example, the flying part, then monitoring instruments, as well as the cabin crew calling, as well as the air traffic controllers calls. In that, if you are now focusing on one duty, and because of any of these distractions, if you miss out on that, it's a problem. So yes, distraction is the most commonly made mistake by the pilots.
Are pilots allowed to sleep during the flight?
Yes, that is if the flight time is more than 3 hours, then controlled rest is allowed by the regulator, which is DGCA, and in that case you can sleep. But of course there are certain regulations like 30 minutes prior to descent you are supposed to wake up, and then because it takes some time, which is called as sleep inertia, to get completely out of the sleep and then start performing your duties normally. So 30 minutes prior to descent or top of descent you are supposed to get up.
Okay, this is one of the most interesting question. So, if a baby is born aboard,
Okay.
so which citizenship will she or he receive?
Okay, so if the baby is born, then so there are three choices which parent gets. One is over the country over which the baby is born. Then the other one is the citizenship of the destination country, and the third one is citizenship of the departure country. So it's up to a parent which one to
Which?
choose.
So they get all the three
Yes.
options.
Yes, yes, yes.
That's amazing. What's the crosswind limit of your plane?
It's 38 knots. So this is a maximum limit which is given by the manufacturer. So Airbus 320 is the aircraft which I fly. So the manufacturer has given the limitation of 38 knots on a dry runway. But of course every company will have certain limitations which are less than the manufacturer's limitations. So that needs to be followed. Apart from that, if in case the runway is wet or if it gets contaminated, so there are certain categories depending on amount of water that is on the runway, and if in case the braking capability is reduced because of the amount of water on the runway, then of course the max crosswind limit reduces, because you're landing on such a runway on which there is so much of ice, snow, or if there is stagnant water, then the aircraft has more chances to skid. So in that case the crosswind limit even reduces to 20 knots or 15 knots depending on how much it is. Yeah.
For Cessna, like 38 knots is a lot.
Is
For
a
Cessna,
lot.
when we used to fly, it was the maximum crosswind limit was 15 knots, and we were allowed to go only if the crosswind is less than 10 knots
Okay.
when we are doing solo.
Correct.
Moving on to the next question. When would you refuse a passenger to board your plane?
So if he is intoxicated and if he is troubling the cabin crew, if he is being abusive, in that case, yes, passenger is not allowed to board a plane. So in that case, I can refuse a passenger to board a plane.
Okay. And this is a scenario based question. So what would you prefer as a safe landing? A rough landing on water or on land?
Okay, so if in case it is over water, it needs to be performed really judiciously, and if it is landed on the water and if there is slight mistake, it can be disastrous. Whereas over land, slightly high G landing will not really break the aircraft into pieces, and it will still be fine. Again, it depends on how much is the G load and how much is the aircraft limitation. So we will not go into the numbers, but over land it is more safe compared to that over sea. It has to be made perfectly if the landing over water needs to be performed.
What is the best thing about short haul flights?
That you get to go back home on the same day.
What's the duration you work as a short haul pilot in a day?
Maximum duration
Yes.
that we can fly in domestic operation is 8 hours of flight time and 12 hours of flight duty time. So duty time includes your, before you push back, you report to the airline dispatch office, you perform your breath analyzer test, and then you check your pre-flight documents and then proceed to the aircraft. So this 1 hour which is before your pushback or departure time, that is under your duty time, as well as in between the two flights. Transit time is the duty time. It's a part of the duty time, so it's not counted in the flight time. So 12 hours of max duty time and 8 hours of flight time for the domestic operations. If it is neighboring country operations, it is 9 hours of flight time and 13 hours of duty time.
So do you fly always with the same crew, or you get different crew every flight?
Mostly different crew. So this is quite subjective, and it is dependent on in which airline you fly and what is the strength of the number of crew, number of pilots at that particular base. Because if you fly out of a smaller base where there are lesser number of pilots, then you will end up flying with the same set of pilots again and again. And if you fly out of a major base where there are plenty of pilots, then you will not even fly with the same pilot again. So it depends on particular airline as well as the base.
So does pilot's bag get scanned at a security?
Yes, our bag does get scanned at security as well, and we also need to follow the CISF BCAS instructions. So yes, we do undergo aviation security course every 2 years, and that needs to be renewed every 2 years, wherein we need to know what all baggage we can carry, what all things we can carry in the flight, what are prohibited, what items should not be there on.
So do you have a separate check-in or check-out counter, or a separate security counter where you get yourself checked?
At most of the major airports, yes, there is a separate security counter for crew and pilots. So we can go and we can use that security counter so that you don't have to cut the line through the passengers and go, and you can just opt for that.
So this is I guess we have discussed, but what do pilots eat during a flight?
So yes, we do get a crew meal wherein you have salad, you have dessert, you have everything like roti, sabzi, rice. You have non-veg option as well. And if it is a festival, then it is an amazing food that you get. On Christmas, you get turkey, and yes, it is delicious on festivals.
So this is all on board, or you have to pre-order it?
No, this is on board.
This is on board.
Yeah. We
That's
don't
great.
pre-order. Yes.
So are flights less turbulent during the night and more turbulent during the day? Is that true?
So if we talk about the turbulence before just after takeoff and before landing, then yes, in the daytime, especially in summer, it is really bad turbulence that you get because of the thermal currents. And otherwise, if you talk about cruise at higher altitude, that turbulence is clear air turbulence, which is not associated with daytime or nighttime. It could be there even at night, which is due to the change in the winds at high level. So that turbulence could be there at any point of time. But if you're coming in for landing, and if below 10,000 aircraft start shaking in the afternoon, then yes, it is because of thermals. And yes, that will be more during the day, and it will be quite pleasant and smooth and calm at night.
Yes, I have experienced it, like when we were training. So during the summer, when we had afternoon flight, let's say 12 or 2 in the afternoon, at that time it would tend to be very bumpy below 1500 2000 feet, but you would still feel the bumps at 5000. And the major bumpiness would be around a lake when you're transitioning, when you're flying over a lake and suddenly there's a land. Okay,
Correct.
so the difference between the heat
Definitely.
and stuff, so it makes the air very bumpy.
Correct.
So have you experienced any bumps or anything like that when you are in the final phase of landing?
Yes, it is there quite a lot, especially if you see Mangalore airport or if the Calicut airport. So Mangalore and Calicut are tabletop airports. So these airports are on a plateau, and then there is a there is a cliff once that runway gets over. So when you are coming into land, the radio altimeter callouts go for a toss because it changes all the way from 400 to 100 like that. Because it is measuring the altitude from
From the
that
ground.
valley, and all of a sudden you come on a tabletop, and the winds change is really really sudden over there, and the control need of the aircraft needs to be done really really well in that case. So that is the reason why even recent circular of the DGCA says that even the supervised takeoff landing is not permitted at those airports, Calicut and the Mangalore, because these airports are quite susceptible to unsafe landings. And if you know that Mangalore airport has had even a crash.
Why do planes sometime circle before landing?
Yeah, that we call it as holding.
Holding.
And that is because of the heavy air traffic congestion for landing. Like, let's say in Mumbai or Delhi, if there is a heavy congestion for landing and the air traffic controller is not able to accommodate so much traffic at once, then they ask these aircrafts to hold and make them wait for a while before they could make the previous aircrafts land, and then these aircrafts are in a sequence. Similar thing even in Delhi. Even though Delhi has 3 runways now, the fourth runway will be operational very soon. It's almost done. So Delhi will have crazy traffic.
Yes,
Yeah.
and as we are in the post-COVID era, we already see the
Yes.
expansion in the aviation industry.
Yes, yes.
You are operating from Mumbai base, okay? So Mumbai is really congested nowadays
Yes, it
because
is.
now the international flights have started and the domestic flights are also picking up.
A
So
lot.
how often do you hold in a hold?
So in Mumbai at the moment, so I just had to hold once recently, and even for departure, we had a lot of delay, 45 minutes of delay for pushback that day.
45
Yes,
minutes.
it
So
is. The Bombay is going crazy. Like, the amount of traffic that is increasing in Mumbai is a lot. It's immense, and even for landing, we had to hold for just 4 to 5 minutes, not much, but yes, the Mumbai air traffic controllers are amazing. They are trained really well and they get the aircrafts so fast, and they are extremely efficient controllers. And they are, I would say, the best controllers in India. And then, yes, Delhi also, but because Mumbai is handling all of them on one runway, whereas in Delhi the infrastructure is better with respect to the airport operations, so that traffic is divided on 3 runways, so it is much more helpful for the controllers to manage the traffic, whereas here it is on one runway. So that's how it
yes,
is.
the ETC,
Yeah.
Mumbai ETC is doing a fantastic job
Yes.
because every day, I think only one runway is operational and every day they like handle so many flights. So according to you, who is the most iconic pilot?
And he has the #1 commercial pilot license
Yes.
in India. So
He was
has
the first one who got the commercial pilot
yes,
license in
yes,
India.
in India, yes. He's the one who has given birth to Indian Airlines, Air India, and then aviation has started from there. So yes, he is iconic. Yes,
Yes.
I would
Now-
say Captain Sully also. He has done a fabulous job in getting the aircraft safely to land on Hudson in case of dual engine failure because of the bird strike after taking off from New York LaGuardia Airport. So yes, hats off to him.
Yes, they both have done a fantastic job.
Yes.
So which is the worst airline according to you?
Because when I flew that airline from London, so from there I was going to Ireland, Cork. So this was to meet my sister. And when I was traveling, I did not have a boarding card because there I didn't find a printer where I would get a printout of my boarding card, and they charged me 400 euros.
400
100
euros?
euros for one boarding card. Yes.
Euros or rupees?
No, it was boarding card for boarding card. They charge that much. And if you don't check in your bag online, then another 400 euros. So it was super expensive.
And how much was the ticket for?
Ticket was for 200 euros, and this was the overhead cost. I was like, freaking holy shit, I am not going to. This is crazy. When I went to the aircraft, the air conditioning was not on, and it was warm in the aircraft. And I could figure out as a pilot that yes, the bleed is not on and it is getting suffocated. They are not even spending on the APU bleed and not even connecting the external conditioning. Though in London it was cold, but not so cold that it would be quite comfortable without any circulation of air on the ground. And yeah, so I felt that this is ridiculous and they are just charging for absolutely everything and not providing any
Yes,
service.
yes.
Yeah.
I have this airline from the States which I have in my blacklist, which I don't want to mention the name. But if you are curious to know which airline is this, you can always DM me. But the flight was in the afternoon around 12 o'clock. Okay, so I went to the airport. They were like, okay, the flight is cancelled. The flight is moved to the evening 6 o'clock. Okay, so I waited at the airport for 5 hours. And at 6 o'clock, they are telling me that this flight is again cancelled. Okay, so we can give you two options. Either we can refund your money or you can take the option which is available tomorrow 6 a.m. from Boston.
Okay.
Okay. So I was like, if I take a refund, it would be like $125 ticket. And if I book another ticket from New York to Orlando, it would cost me around $700 because
Okay.
it's the next day
Okay.
ticket.
Okay.
Like, okay. So I took the Boston option. So I went to Boston by bus. I reached
Okay.
there at around 12 to 1 midnight. I reached midnight.
Oh, okay. Oh my
So
God.
I directly went to the airport, Boston airport. And I stayed at the airport for like 4 hours. And morning 6 o'clock I go there and they are like, again the flight is cancelled.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And I was like,
Oh,
is this even an airline? How
Oh my
are they
God.
cancelling so many flights? And they transferred. They were like, "Ki now if you want to go, it's like after 3 days we have a flight from Boston.
Oh
We
my
don't have
God.
any immediate flight." Then I requested them so much that I have to reach to Orlando because I have this training lesson so and so, and they gave me a ticket on JetBlue, and that's how I finally reached my home.
Oh my
So
God.
after that time, even if they give me a ticket for free, I'm not flying with them.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So if an airline is good, it's because of the service which they provide to the customer,
Correct.
so that
Correct.
they use it again and again.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yes.
Moving on to the next question. Why do pilots and passengers turn off their mobile phones during a flight?
All right. So during the flight, if we have 3G on or 4G on, then the interference with the radio telephony communication as well as with the navigation aids is minimized. Otherwise, the frequencies on which the mobile phones operate is in the UHF frequency band, and that could interfere with the communication with the ground in terms of the secondary surveillance radar, which is also in the UHF frequency band. So to avoid that interference, there is this turning off the mobile phones. So recently there has been 5G launched in US, and there has been lots of go arounds which have happened because of the mobile phones not being off, because the 5G has such a strong signal that has interfered with the auto land capability of the aircraft. In low visibility condition, when it is very much required that the aircrafts perform auto land, it is extremely important that the automation should work well and it should align it with the ILS signals on the ground. If there is interference, then it can severely, because glide slope signals are also in the UHF frequency band, then this radiations from the mobile can interfere with it, and that has led to so many go arounds in US in the recent past.
Yes, yes. I've also heard about that news. Like many
Yes.
of the flights were cancelled between US
Yes, yes.
and India.
That was because of this 5G. Though at the moment in India, 5G is not launched. Once it is launched, there will be more stringent regulations on the switching mobile phones off before flight and before landing as well.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Which is the best looking plane?
Best looking plane, I find Airbus 350, which is very cute. It has such an amazing cockpit display, as well as it has such an amazing, cockpit windows. If you see from the front, it is so beautiful.
It's like jet black windshield.
Yes.
And this long body.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, my personal favorite is also A350. And one day, let's see if I can.
Sure. Good luck with that.
Okay, and now the opposite one. Which is the worst looking plane?
I find Beluga, Airbus Beluga. It is ugly. Yeah.
It looks like dolphin.
Yeah, it does look like a dolphin. Yes.
Which is the most interesting cargo you have transported till date?
Interesting. Okay, I have transported a lot of cargo, but yes, I have transported dead bodies too. And that is called as human remains. So we do sign a document which is required if there is a dead body on board. So that is in the cargo hold. Sometimes we do transport the lot of like jewelries like diamond, gold, or flowers or vegetables, or sometimes even the vaccines. During COVID times we have transported a lot of COVID vaccines, as well as we do transport mangoes and all the stuff.
So for the
that's
dead
related.
bodies, like, do you transfer it in a proper like
It's in a
sealed
coffin.
bag? A coffin.
Coffin,
right?
yes,
Okay.
it's in a coffin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next question. How many days per month do you get time to spend with your family and friends?
Okay, so it depends, but yes, at least I get 6 to 7 days a month. So if in case I'm on a vacation, then I get even more. So then it would be even 10 days. So yeah, that's how it is. At least whenever there is common off or common day on which there is, we get time to spend either with family or with friends.
That's a lot of time, I guess.
Yes, that's pretty much. If the schedule is hectic, then
Then it's
it can
difficult.
even reduce to 5 days a month. Yes, now with the increase in the number of flights. Yes, it is.
This is one of the most commonly asked question anywhere I go. So the other day, I went to this wedding and I never tell anyone that I am a pilot, but my friends who are with me, they tell that I am a pilot. Okay, so this one kid found out that I am a pilot, so he told his dad he's a pilot. So his dad pulled a chair and he was like, "Okay, you are a pilot," and then the interview starts. Okay.
Okay.
So the first question they ask is, "Are you an international pilot or a domestic pilot?"
Yeah, this is very commonly asked question to me by any layman or anyone that I bump into and who knows me somehow. So I am a pilot for both these international as well as domestic. So
I just told them I am a trainee pilot. That's all.
once you are a pilot, you are eligible to fly to any other countries where the airline operates to, if you have those particular clearances. So it is not confined to domestic or international. It is both. So sometimes I would fly domestic routes, sometimes I would fly international routes. So yes, I do fly both.
I hope you all got the answer for it. So what's the highest speed you have flown till date?
I have flown to Mach decimal 8.1. So Mach is something to explain in the layman terms. It is something that has true airspeed of the aircraft compared to the speed of sound, because at higher altitudes that is the requirement. For more details on Mach meter, check out the Mach number chapter on CNTAA and you will know what it is. So every aircraft has something called as the maximum operating speed, maximum operating Mach number. So the aircraft which I fly, that is Airbus 320, that has the MMO of decimal 8.2. So I have flown till decimal 8.1. and VMO of 350 knots. So I've flown till 340 knots. So this is the max speed that I've flown.
That's a great achievement, I guess.
340 knots corresponds to approximately 650 kilometers per hour. So this is again without the effect of wind. Now if you consider the effect of wind, if you have if tailwinds, then even we go to 550 knots of ground speed, which is up to about 8 to 900 kilometers per hour. So yeah, it depends on the aircraft that you fly. Some aircrafts have MMO of decimal 9.1. Some aircrafts have decimal 8.9. So it all depends on that aircraft type, which one you are flying.
Moving on to the next question. What's the highest altitude a commercial airplanes can fly?
A commercial airplanes in India can fly up to about 45,000 feet. And I fly 320, so that has the maximum altitude for at which we can operate is 39,800. So we don't fly above 39,000. But yes, Boeing 737 can even go up to 40,000, 41,000. So yeah, it depends on aircraft type to type. But 45,000 is permitted to be flown in India. Yeah, for commercial airplanes.
So that were all the questions, which is the most frequently asked question.
Great.
So do you feel there's any question which I left out, which I should ask you?
That's pretty much it. Should I ask you some questions?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. So what is the maximum altitude you have flown in Cessna?
I have flown maximum till 10,000. I haven't been above that.
Above
because
that.
by the time I reach
Pressurization.
10,000, it's time to descend.
Yeah, and plus pressurization.
Yes, pressure. Like up
Is
till
also-
12,000 we can go, but because once I reach 10,000, the engine does not produce that much power.
Correct.
So, and by the time I reach 10,000, I'm already like halfway to my destination. So I
Correct.
better start descending. Otherwise, I will have to do emergency descent to the destination.
True. Have you got attention from girls being a pilot?
I would like to use my Fifth Amendment right.
All right.
So that's all for today. We tried to cover as many questions as we could, and this were the most frequently asked question by you all. And in case we have left out any question which you would like us to answer, please drop that questions in the comment section, and we'll definitely try to answer them. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Great. I hope you have enjoyed this session of Q&A round, and we are looking forward to hear more questions from you so that we can cover it in some other topic and other podcast. And thank you so much for staying tuned till here, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
There's something